with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Motorists travelling westbound on the M4 should anticipate heavy congestion from Capel Lanilturn to Pencode, particularly at the off-slip, where traffic is densely packed. For those heading eastbound, expect significant delays as 3 lanes are restricted, making conditions challenging. It's advisable to consider alternative routes if feasible. Meanwhile, train travellers should prepare for major disruptions affecting Avanti West Coast services between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton. Similarly, cross-country services across the same section are experiencing disturbances. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, one of my family members' friends was looking after me one day, like babysitting me. And then on that day, it was a well-trusted friend of our family, was babysitting me and took me upstairs and he raped and abused me. So from then on, I've suffered and suffered. One of the things that he did say to me was that he would kill me or hurt me in my sleep. So ever since then, I've always suffered with PTSD, night terrors. It never goes away.
It took 20 years for you to face it to
20
this.
years, yeah, to ever come out about what had ever happened to me. My parents didn't know, I didn't tell them anything. Because
a lot of men in your position, a lot of boys in position, they'd rather just take the burden of shame on. That comes at a great, can come at a great cost.
Yeah, lots of friends and family. And I was just scared to tell them, you know, because obviously as well, if I did ever say anything about it, he was going to come and get me. So I managed to find an organisation which is charity run called Arch Teesside, which is near where I live. And I went to go see them. And my therapy at the time, the guy was called Dave Taylor. And he was a big guy, full of tattoos. And, you know, when you see somebody, you think, how am I going to open up to somebody of this man, you know? And I hit it off, like, straight away. And I've always told him, this is what I love doing. I love going to the gym. I want to step on stage by the time I'm 40. And then that's what I went and did.
And look at you then. I mean,
that's what my modelling shots, yeah.
You said in your book there, hold your book up, people want to get a copy of this book. Tell them what it's called, mate.
Buy the book.
What's the book called, mate? Tell them.
It's called Breaking the Silence, A Champion's Journey.
And this is it. And your message that you say, if you help one other person out there to channel their pain into purpose, mission accomplished, mate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Thursday the 11th of December, live across the United Kingdom, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, campaigners have begun legal action to stop a trial of puberty-blocking drugs on more than 200 children, calling it grotesque and state-sanctioned chemical castration.
Sir Keir Starmer is accused of cronyism as he's putting more Labour members in the House of Lords, but no one from Reform. Jobs for the boys and the women.
If they vote, as doctors vote to end next week's strikes, we will move forward with that immediately in the new year. We can draw a line under the strikes, we can end the disruption.
Health Secretary Wes Streeting has put forward a last-minute offer to stop doctors striking as super flu hits Britain. But there's no pay increase on the table.
Argentina has asked Britain to lift a weapons ban dating back to the Falklands War in 1982 as they want to buy modern Western military technology. Should we let them?
And Birmingham Council's bin strike chaos has tripled agency spending as the rubbish continues to pile up in Britain's second city.
9 months on since that all-out strike began, we're here in Perry Bar Depot, where the striking workers say their resolve remains steadfast and they will continue striking until a deal can be reached.
Like it didn't blow up.
Everyone, we survived another Christmas.
Animal welfare campaigners PETA release a gruesome advert ahead of Christmas to put us off our meat and to launch their Christmas massacre jumpers made entirely from, get this, vegan wool, whatever that is.
We're going to be speaking to one of these PETA campaigners later on in the show about their Christmas massacre jumpers. But I think from a distance that looks like an ordinary Christmas jumper, so I wonder if it's been a bit of a fail.
Yeah, and of course what PETA do is they shock.
They try to shock.
Yeah, they try to shock.
Everybody knows that their Christmas turkey was once alive and has been killed. I mean, it's not news, is it?
No, exactly. Anyway, they're killjoys, aren't they? But we'll be talking to them on the programme, and as ever, of course, we like to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories. Pharmacists are said to be running low on flu jabs in certain places as the super flu outbreak continues to sweep across Britain. Chemists warned people who want to be vaccinated should expect to travel or try several pharmacies amid a shortage of appointments in some places. Next week's strike by resident doctors in England may be averted after ministers offered the British Medical Association a fresh deal. The doctors' union has agreed to put the offer to members over the coming days. If they support it, the 5-day walkout starting on Wednesday, the 17th of December, could be called off. Venezuela has accused the US of piracy after an oil tanker was seized off the country's coast. Donald Trump announced the operation had taken place during a meeting of business leaders at the White House, telling reporters, "We've just seized a tanker, the largest one ever seized." And homelessness charities have warned that ministers are falling short of what is desperately needed to end Britain's homelessness crisis. It comes as the government published its new plan to tackle rough sleeping in Britain, which pledges £3.5 billion of funding to crack down on the issue. And those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So Starmer, our Prime Minister, accused of cronyism. He has created 25 new peers for the House of Lords, none for reform, even though they got 4 million votes at the last election. But in 2022, when he was leader of the opposition, he said, "I'm going to abolish the House of Lords to restore trust in politics." He's put in 25 today, or yesterday, and in December, there were another 30-odd. So since he became Prime Minister, he's created 62 peers. How is he restoring trust in politics if he says he's going to abolish the wretched place anyway, and he's now put 62 in?
Well, he's obviously had a change of heart.
They do
I suppose what the government
when they get into government.
Well, it's true. I suppose what the government would say is that the Lords is blocking their legislative agenda, for which they do have a democratic mandate. They won an election.
It's a revising chamber.
It is a revising chamber. It can be a blocking chamber. And at the moment, Labour doesn't have a majority in the House of Lords. So if the Conservative peers and the crossbench peers gang up on Labour, they can prevent their legislation getting through. Now, if you're opposed to Labour, then obviously this is a good thing. But democratically, I can understand what they're trying to do, which is to get their legislation through. What's the point of being in government if you can't get your legislation through?
Or he could do what he said for a change and abolish the place.
Well, exactly.
And then there'd be no bills being scuppered. I mean, for instance, the assisted dying bill is going to be scuppered completely in the House of
Well,
Lords.
that is the question mark. Is the government doing this to get the assisted dying bill through, which is very, very poor work, because it's not a government bill. It's a backbench bill. They're not supposed to have any involvement in it at all. They're supposed to be neutral. So if they're doing this not to get their manifesto through, but to get that bill through, then that is very suspicious.
Yeah, so what do you think? I just think when I heard about 25, I thought, can we believe anything this bloke ever says anymore?
Well, I think they were so idealistic, weren't they, a few years ago? Before the left always is, we're going to do this, we're going to restore trust in democracy, etc., etc. But you get into government and actually the cold, hard reality of how you get law through is very difficult, and there's a reason why we have the parliament that we do.
Exactly. And, of course, just in case for information, the House of Lords is the second largest legislature in the world.
Is that right?
Second largest. The only legislature which is larger is in the People's Republic of China. So we've got more peers than the entire United States House of Representatives and Senate put together.
And
we've got a population of 70-odd million. America, 330 million.
And there's no compulsion to turn up. About half of them work extremely hard, but the other half come for lunch.
Yeah, and of course some of them pop in, they clock in, and they get their £365 attendance allowance and clock off. Tax-free, by the way. I've got some mates in the House of Lords. They do a good job. A lot of them do work very hard. The food in the House of Lords.
See, it's not worth it, Andrew.
Oh, my God. Now, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code. And we are asking this. Should the House of Lords be abolished? Yes or no?
I wonder what the result will be. I'm going for a 60-40 in favour of no.
Getting rid of it or keeping it?
Keeping it.
Yeah. By the way, other people in the House of Lords, Neil Kinnock, when he was Labour leader, he said he would abolish the House of Lords. Yeah. He's
they
now
all say
in
that.
the House of Lords.
And then they enjoy wearing the ermine and they think maybe...
Trade unionists who want to abolish House of Lords, they're all in there. Jim Callaghan, former Labour Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, they were all going to abolish House of Lords. They all took peerages.
But there are some fantastic peers who do an amazing job, and without them we'd be in a much worse state. So a mixed bag. Well, if you want to become a friend of GB News and vote in all these polls for free, here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on your say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, on to our main story now. And last night, campaigners began legal action to stop a trial of puberty-blocking drugs on more than 200 children. It's splashed on the front page of my newspaper, the Daily Mail, which says, "Stop Labour's grotesque puberty drug experiment on children." And Claire Coutinho, who's a Tory frontbencher, has said it is state-sponsored torture, effectively. Why are we doing this to our children? Well, the trial was recommended by the 2024 CAS review of transgender services for children, and this led to puberty blockers being banned due to the lack of evidence that the drugs were safe or effective. We're going to talk to the psychotherapist James Esses, who joins us now. James, good morning to you. Most people, when the CAS review came out, thought it was a marvellous thing because it was very critical of things that had happened at the Tavistock Institute, where a lot of work was done on children who thought they wanted perhaps to change their gender. But it is CAS which has recommended this trial, and 200 young people are going to have these terrible drugs put into their body. What do you think?
I think it's utterly shameful. This is state-sanctioned child abuse, and I can't believe that in the year 2025 that we're about to send hundreds of children down a one-way path towards infertility. It's absolutely crazy. Now, you're right, the CAS review was excellent in terms of shining a spotlight on what's been going on in society, but she was utterly wrong on this. And I've seen her and other clinicians say, well, we've got no evidence that puberty blockers benefit children, but There's a lot of people out there who really believe that they work, so we must trial them. And I say to that belief is not in line with medical ethics. There's a lot of people out there who believe that Coca-Cola cures cancer. I don't suppose the government will be running a Coca-Cola trial anytime soon. But belief has nothing to do with it. There is no evidence. The only evidence we've got is of harm, not benefit.
So you're threatening legal action to try and stop the trial. And in your pre-action letter, you note that gender incongruence, this feeling that you are not the sex that you are born into, is not a physical pathology. It is perhaps a mental illness, perhaps a psychological problem. But if it's not a physical sickness, which obviously it isn't, being born male is not a physical sickness, then why are they looking for a physical treatment?
Well, quite right. It's either a pathology or it isn't. And we say that it is, and I'm saying that it's a form of mental health condition. And this is the only mental health condition in the world in which the treatment being proposed by the government is irreversible medicalisation and affirming the delusional thoughts that somebody has inside their head. You know, we're not doing any children any favours by indulging this notion that actually you can change sex. That's utterly harmful. We need to engage in reality. That's the purpose of psychotherapy. But these children are worse than guinea pigs, right? Because when we think of guinea pigs, we say, well, there may or may not be some risk. We know that there's going to be harm caused here because the purpose of the trial, the blocking of puberty, is harmful in and of itself.
James, just explain how young some of these children will be who are going to be in this ghastly experiment.
Some, it seems, will be as young as 10 years old. So
isn't that appalling? 10 years old.
Bank account. Yeah.
What do they know about changing gender at 10? When I was growing up, I went through all sorts of phases. Isn't that what this is really all about?
It is, and you know, in my clinical work with children who want to go on puberty blockers, the rationale behind it is either based completely on regressive stereotypes, you know, girls don't play football, or such childlike, almost naivety. You know, I've seen clients who say that young boys who want to become girls because they said they don't like having body hair. I mean, it really is that naive. And we're saying to these children, you may not be old enough to open a bank account or have a Facebook profile, but you can consent to putting yourself on a path towards infertility. I mean, it's utter madness.
Tell us about the legal challenge, James. What are the arguments that you are making and what do you expect the response to be?
Well, we're looking to take a judicial review. We're saying this, the decision to run with the trial is illegal and harmful. We say that there's already ample evidence of the harms caused by puberty blockers. We say that if you're going to investigate anything, you should look at less invasive treatments like psychotherapy. You should consider animal testing as well before using children as literal guinea pigs. But we need to move fast because this trial was approved on the sly. And supposedly children will be recruited from January onwards. And we don't know how long it's going to take to get a full hearing in the High Court. But if necessary, we're going to try and take an emergency injunction to actually stop these children from being recruited in the first place.
And just briefly, because we're on pressure time, James, what damage do you think this can do physically to a child who will be taking part in this trial?
Irreversible physical, emotional and social damage. We already know that it causes issues of brain development, with bone density, with sexual functioning, and as we say, it leads them on a path towards sterility. Going on puberty blockers makes it less likely that a child will settle into their own bodies and become comfortable. And it does untold harm for the scores of children, including my co-claimant Kira Bell, who end up regretting this decision for the rest of their lives. It cannot go ahead. Wes Streeting, if you're listening to this, we've given you ample opportunity. Pull the plug on this now, or we're going to take this all the way.
James, thank you. I sincerely hope that you're successful, and well done for all the campaigning you're doing on this.
Absolutely right.
Psychotherapist James Esses, thank you so much for your time this morning.
I think it's absolutely wicked.
It is, and it's just extraordinary. One of the how they're going to assess the results, part of it is a questionnaire asking children if they feel sad or lonely. You know, completely subjective.
A 10-year-old.
Not scientific at all. Extraordinary. Well, let's hope they're successful. But a Department for Health and Social Care spokesperson said it's completely different. Here we go. The expert CAS review, which was accepted by the last government and this one, recommended a ban on puberty blockers and that clinical research be carried out because of a lack of scientific evidence. So, yes, let's see what happens with that review and the legal challenge. I mean, it has given the government a get-out-of-jail-free card because the Cass review has given Wes Streeting cover.
That's right.
Regardless of what he personally thinks about this, I think he's quite sceptical. But it's given the government cover to say, well, we've got to do this. Hilary Cass recommended it.
I just think children as young as 10 are going to be involved in this trial.
And they don't need to trial puberty blockers. We know that they work. They are used to delay puberty in children who go into puberty early.
Yeah.
Don't need to know that they work. They do. Very strange.
Well, it's wicked. Now, still ahead, if you're looking for a last-minute Christmas jumper, Christmas jumper day. It's apparently Christmas jumper day today. What a ridiculous idea. Animal welfare campaigners PETA have launched their own vegan wool range. Won't be buying any of that.
Well, up next, another week passes by and there's still no resolution to the rubbish piling up in Birmingham. And we'll be hearing from some Brummies shortly.
But first, we've got some of that elusive holiday sun for you.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Are you heading away this weekend? Well, it's turning unsettled through the Canary Islands, but there is plenty of sunshine to come for the Mediterranean. But a spell of wet weather through Friday will push through Tenerife as well as Madeira and through Lisbon as well as towards Barcelona. Plenty of cloud and outbreaks of showers for Nice. But as we look further east, high pressure dominates and that will bring plenty of sunny and dry weather to parts of Greece in particular. So temperatures here will start to climb towards the high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, you're absolutely right. Spot on. I couldn't help feeling that perhaps it was actually just a joke, and they were going to come back in 2 years' time and say, we took you all in. It was, in fact, a joke. Now we're going to produce something more serious, because it was absolutely hilarious and ridiculous. Commercial suicide, I described it as.
Well, the individual behind it is no more. What would you like to see from the brand? Presumably not people with asymmetric haircuts in pink dresses with sledgehammers doing precisely zero to do with cars.
Well, again, absolutely. You're spot on. I mean, it's just totally unrelated to cars at all. There wasn't even a car in the advert. Jaguar was built on style, and that brought passion for cars. That's what made them different. I remember many years ago, a Jaguar executive in the States saying to me, people say, I like my Mercedes, but I love my Jaguar. It's all about passion. Style engendered that. That's what we've got to have. We need to see a proper, more traditional, stylish, real Jaguar that can build on the brand and heritage of the past.
OK, Philip Poulter, I'm going to put you on the spot now. If you're in charge of the next Jaguar advert, what would it look like?
As diametrically opposite and different as it possibly could be from what they produced. I suppose, I mean, I live a little in the past, I admit, although I also think I'm hopefully realistic about the current situation and everything, the present. But I'd like to see the heritage shown. Jaguar were not afraid to talk in the past about their heritage, the Le Mans wins back in the 50s, the E-Type in the 60s. This is what added excitement and luster to the brand.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
It's been going on for 9 months now. Can you believe it? Birmingham's bin strike. It's Europe's biggest local authority. It's run by the Labour Party. It's bankrupt as well. And the city streets are just littered with literally uncollected rubbish. It's appalling.
10 months. It's astonishing. Well, the strike is now set to run until March 2026, taking it well over the 1 year mark, with the cost to councils of outsourcing the rubbish collections tripling.
We're going to go to Birmingham and speak to our GB News national reporter, Jack Carson. Jack, good morning. Tell us more, Jack.
Yeah, good morning, because we are 9 months on to the day since that all-out strike began. The council are having to spend millions a year on agency staff using other services across the region to be able to collect all that rubbish. But these workers on the picket line this morning here in Perry Bar are sticking firm. Let's speak to one of them now, Penny Robbins. Penny, you've been out on strike now, all-out strike for 9 months.
Yeah.
How much further are you prepared to go?
All the way. It's... What they've done to us is I've always said it's criminal. Nobody in the right mind goes to work to lose money. So we're prepared to go all the way, whatever it takes.
And this is the thing, this is not about a pay rise, it's about protecting your pay. Just kind of give us your own circumstances and what you would lose.
Well, my personal circumstance, well, it's not just my personal circumstance, it's everybody, all of us here. We're all in it together, we're all standing together, and we're all going to stand firm, and nobody goes back in there till we're all in there. Why should we lose money? People are going to lose their homes. The cost of living crisis now. You go out and do your regular day-to-day shopping, and it's everybody's affected, not just personally us. It's astronomical, the cost of living. It's just gone through the roof. And that this government are causing poverty. We are going to be homeless, we're going to be hungry, we're going to rely on food banks more than ever, and those are struggling as well. So get it sorted. Get down here, come and speak to us. We're normal, every regular day people, come and speak to us.
All right, Penny, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Of course, the cuts we're talking about are up to £8,000 for recycling, waste and collection officer roles, and also drivers as well. And as you heard there from Penny, these workers prepare to stay out on strike well into the new year.
What a complete disaster. I can't imagine why the government hasn't got a grip of this situation. Anyway, a spokesman for Birmingham City Council says the City Council has contingency plans and will continue to look to maintain residents with a minimum of 1 collection a week. Meanwhile, we continue to move forward with service improvements that are long overdue and that our residents need. Just collect the bins. Indeed.
Well, still ahead, doctor strikes could be avoided. More with us coming up after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day with sunny spells for many eastern areas. However, further west, rain will move in, and across the north, still another fairly breezy day, though not as windy as it was earlier on this week. So some cloud around across many eastern and northern areas, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly across eastern areas of England throughout this morning and into the afternoon. But further west, cloud will thicken after a fairly bright start. It's quite a brisk breeze as well starting to pick up, and rain will push into parts of northwest Scotland, far west of Wales, southwestern England, as well as Northern Ireland. It is a mild day though out there after a pretty mild start this morning as well. Now that rain will gradually move eastwards throughout this evening, but it will linger for parts of Scotland through much of this evening, and once it does clear through, we will start to see much clearer skies move in through the second part of the night, and with that temperatures will start to fall away, so we're down into mid-single figures across parts of western Northern Ireland to start this evening. Now the rain may turn heavy across parts of Wales, southwest England, particularly over any high ground, but it will be a fairly short-lived spell of wet weather that we're expecting through this evening. It will push eastwards throughout the night, becoming a slightly weaker feature. So lots of cloud ahead of that, fairly dry across many southeastern areas, spell of wet weather for many central areas, and then clearer skies developing from the north and west, spreading into parts of West Wales as well as southwestern England. And here we could see a touch of frost by
by Friday morning. So a dry and sunny start to the day for much of Northern Ireland, Scotland, western areas of England and Wales. But a thick blanket of cloud and some wet weather, though, persisting across the east throughout Friday morning. It may take a little while to clear, but the rain's not going to be particularly heavy. And once it does clear, that sunshine will become much more widespread, bringing many of us a fine end to the week. But it will feel a little bit fresher out there on Friday afternoon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say. Because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Traffic is currently experiencing 2 lanes restricted eastbound on the M4 near Junction 33 at Capel Lanilton due to heavy congestion on the off-slip. As a result, travellers should carefully plan their journeys and anticipate possible delays. Additionally, significant disruptions are impacting rail services, with both Avanti West Coast and cross-country operations affected, particularly on routes between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton. Passengers are strongly advised to stay informed by regularly checking for updates and preparing for potential schedule changes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday, the 11th of December. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Grotesque and state-sanctioned chemical castration. That's how campaigners have described a trial of puberty-blocking drugs on more than 200 children, some as young as 10, as they launch legal action to try and stop it.
Elsewhere, after previously wanting to abolish the House of Lords, Sir Keir Starmer now wants to put more Labour members in there, but nobody from Reform UK. Is it jobs for the boys?
If they vote, as doctors vote, to end next week's strikes, we will move forward with that immediately in the new year. We can draw a line under the strikes, we can end the disruption.
That's the Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who's putting forward a last-minute offer to stop doctors, they used to be called junior doctors, striking as superflu hits Britain. But there's no pay increase, he says, on the table.
Argentina has asked Britain to lift a weapons ban dating back to the Falklands War as they want to buy modern Western military technology.
Well, a British government spokesman said there are no specific talks on any weapons ban being lifted, but they do look forward to a more positive relationship with Argentina.
Like it didn't blow up.
Everyone, we survived another Christmas.
Animal welfare campaigners PETA, otherwise known as the Christmas Grinch, are releasing a gruesome advert ahead of the festive season to put us off our meat and launch their Christ Massacre jumpers made entirely from vegan wool.
It's really interesting to speak to James Esses, who's one of the claimants in this legal action against the puberty blockers trial. And he made such a good point, and this is not a medical problem.
No.
Why are they looking for a medical solution?
I know, and he also says it is irreversible, the damage it does to the children's psychology and body.
And unfortunately, it was recommended in the Cass review. I do wonder, looking back, if Hilary Cass thought, well, this is never going to happen, because she'd made such a strong case against the treatments that were being put forward. But obviously there's somebody somewhere in the healthcare system that wants to see this.
Yeah, and I thought the health secretary West Streeting was against it too. So I'm surprised it's happening. However, let's wish the legal campaigners the very best, because I think it's a wicked thing that they're proposing to do to our children. As ever, we want to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much for the top stories. The government has denied claims from Argentina's president that the two countries are in talks about lifting an arms export ban that's been in place since the Falklands War. A spokesman said there are no specific talks taking place. After Javier Milei told the Daily Telegraph negotiations with Britain were underway to lift weapons export restrictions. The government's policy since the Falklands War more than 40 years ago has been weapons with British parts are not allowed to be exported to Argentina if they are judged to enhance Argentine military capability. Javier says he wants to see the Falklands handed to Argentina via diplomatic means after previously saying he would not relinquish the claim to sovereignty over the island but wouldn't seek conflict with the UK. A government spokesperson rebutted this too, saying sovereignty of the Falkland Islands is not up for negotiation and we will defend its right to self-determination. Elsewhere, next week's strike by resident doctors in England may be averted after ministers offered the British Medical Association a fresh deal. The doctors' union has agreed to put the offer to members over the coming days. If they support it, the 5-day walkout starting on the 17th of December could be called off. The offer includes a rapid expansion of specialist training posts as well as covering out-of-pocket expenses such as exam fees. But it does not include any promises of extra pay. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has been adamant he will not negotiate on that, adding that a resident doctor strike over Christmas would have a much different degree of risk than previous walkouts, adding that he cannot think of a single other trade union in this country that would behave this way. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
Last year they got a 29% pay rise, and unlike the productivity reforms that we were asking for, nothing was asked for in return. And this year they came back and said they wanted a 26% pay rise. Now what we're getting with the NHS is more and more money being put in and actually less and less being done for patients. The productivity of the NHS has gone through the floor. So I do think you need to get this balance right. We know the BMA is an incredibly militant union, and actually I think striking over the Christmas period when we know that you're more likely to have pressures on the NHS because of flu, this happens every year, I think is a terrible thing for patients.
In other news, Sir Keir Starmer will spend today touring Norfolk as he investigates how £3 billion of government bus funding is being rolled out across England. The Prime Minister insisted reliable bus travel shouldn't cost the earth ahead of the visit, which is being carried out to mark a multi-year bus funding settlement recently announced by the Department for Transport. Sir Keir is also seeking to promote other significant public transport interventions, including the decision to freeze rail fares at the budget and the £3 bus fare cap, which has been extended until 2027 and prevents the cost of single journeys rising above that price. Pharmacists are said to be running low on flu jabs in certain places as the super flu outbreak continues to sweep across Britain. Chemists warned people who want to be vaccinated should expect to travel or try several pharmacies amid a shortage of appointments in some areas. It comes as the NHS said it was bracing for an unprecedented flu wave this winter, with thrice as many Londoners being hospitalised compared to last year. Last week, there was a daily average of 259 in beds across the capital city due to the flu, a stark contrast to a daily average of 89 last year. Homelessness charities have warned that ministers are falling short of what is desperately needed to end Britain's homelessness crisis. It comes as the government published its new plan to tackle rough sleeping in Britain, which pledges £3.5 billion of funding to crack down on the issue. But charities have said Labour's national plan to end homelessness falls short and contains important gaps, meaning the party will not be able to achieve their stated goal of halving the number of homeless people by 2030. Crisis, an organisation that supports the homeless, also argues that only 100 million of the funding announced in the strategy is new. And finally, Venezuela has accused the US of piracy after an oil tanker was seized off the country's coast. Donald Trump announced the operation had taken place during a meeting of business leaders at the White House, telling reporters, "We've just seized a tanker, the largest one ever seized." Attorney General Pam Bondi says the US forces executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. But Venezuela's government said the seizure constitutes a blatant theft and an act of international piracy. It marks another escalation from the US after months of pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The White House accuses Mr. Maduro of presiding over a narco-trafficking operation in Venezuela, which he denies. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Gates. Well, let's see what you've been saying on your say. Lots of comments, particularly about the bin strikes. I know this
I'm sure.
Close to your heart, Andrew. Dean says...
I just don't understand why the government don't send someone down there to sort it out.
Extraordinary.
Our second city. What an embarrassment.
In a developed country, it's been going on for 10 months. People haven't had their bins emptied.
And they're having to use agency workers with huge extra costs, and now the agency workers are going on strike.
I know. I know they don't want to give in to the strikers, but I think they've reached the point where they're going to need to.
Well, it's appalling.
Anyway, Dean says, I support the bin workers in Birmingham. It's a hard, dirty job to do and they should get a pay rise. Well, the problem was they're being forced to have a pay cut because of some equalities legislation that bankrupted Birmingham.
And some of the bin workers say the cut is £8,000.
For some of the roles.
Yeah, that is a lot of money.
It is. I mean, it is really not.
£8,000.
Exactly. Mel says, Birmingham bin strike, what is it about? Latest lady interview when asked about her personal circumstances and how much she was losing, she didn't answer. Well, I think what it's about is that Birmingham City Council lost inequalities ruling, that some female workers who I think were dinner ladies and office workers brought and said, we're not being paid as much as the bin men, essentially. Now, for some reason, the judge ruled that it was because they were women and not just that the jobs were less demanding or less risky. But Birmingham City Council, because it's bankrupt, can't afford to pay the women more, so it needed to cut the salaries of the binmen. So it's utterly ridiculous. And I do really feel for the binmen, but I also feel for the people of Birmingham.
Yeah,
to live like that.
Terrible. What an embarrassment. What an advertisement it says to the world.
It really is. And PETA says, looking at some of the images of the Birmingham bin strike, the residents seem to be going through a lot of mattresses, fridges, old furniture, etc. Anywhere else it would be called fly tipping.
How can these bin workers afford to be on strike for 9 months? Is Unite, the trade union, paying them large amounts of strike pay?
They must be.
We'll get Jack Carson to ask that question because we've got our national reporter there, Jack Carson. Well, we should have done the poll on the bin strike.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a reminder,
another one tomorrow.
Friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free. You scan the QR code now and we're asking, should the House of Lords be abolished? Keir Starmer thought so in 2022 when he was leader of the opposition. He's just created 25 more peers, which means he's created 62 since he became Prime Minister. The House of Lords is the second largest legislator in the entire world. We're a rather small country. It's embarrassing, frankly.
Well, it's always good when people are willing to change their minds. Let us know what you think. We'll bring you those results a little bit later in the show. Matthew has already commented. He said there must be another level of checks and balances on those who create legislation.
Yeah.
Leonara says perhaps make a quota system for each party, definitely not abolish.
And of course, don't forget, Reform have been given no peers whatsoever by the Labour government, because who goes in the Lords is completely in the gift of the Prime Minister of the day.
That's right. And normally it does roughly reflect the parties in the Commons, but not exactly. If you want to become a friend of GB News, you can comment on these polls for free. Here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Welcome back. And Argentina's president, Javier Milei, has called for the Falklands arms ban to end, despite confirming he still believes the Falkland Islands will one day be returned to Argentina.
Well, if they invade, we couldn't possibly liberate them like we did in 1982, because we haven't got
any working ships, have we?
I don't think so. Let's talk to GB News Home Security Editor Mark White. This is an interesting development.
Yeah, I mean, for 40 years, really, since the Falklands War, there has been this export ban, restricting any kind of technology or weapons systems going to Argentina if it was seen as something that would enhance their military capability. And the important thing about this is, people think, well, Britain can ban it, but how does that, affect other countries? But there is a very big and thriving arms and technology-related industry here in the UK that provide component parts for many of the weapon systems we see around the world. For instance, just this week, Argentina has taken delivery of the first 6 F-16 fighter jets from Denmark, a deal approved by the US. That had been held up for a while because some of the component parts of the F-16, the ejection seat, had been British designed and made. So there are US designed ejection seats in these F-16 models, so that paves the way for them being sent to Argentina. So it's got the first of 24 F-16s now. It wants to build up its military. Javier Milei says that negotiations are underway. The British government, very interestingly, has tried to sort of knock that down, but I'm not, just taking some of the wording of their statement, I'm not so sure that there isn't a bit of a room for interpretation here. They say that obviously the Falklands sovereignty is not up for negotiation at all. But it says there are no specific talks with Argentina about the UK relaxing its armed export controls. So the word specific...
That's quite interesting.
Heavy lifting.
You can read so much between the lines of these statements, can't you?
Listen, with what has happened with the Chagos Islands deal, there are many people that might be a bit distrustful of what the UK government is embarked on in terms of our foreign interests with regards to key areas such as the Falklands, despite the very public assertion that the sovereignty of this nation is not up for grabs here at all. That's up to the people of the Falkland Islands. But the difficulty is you go down the road of, OK, under Javier Milei, who wants to, improve relations with the UK and appears to be suggesting that, of course, the people of the Falkland Islands need to decide as well. He's one president in one time. What happens 3, 4, 5 years down the road when you may have a different president with a very different outlook, and then suddenly you've provided all the means to rearm Argentina? That is the worry, potentially, further down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Mark, very much. And joining us now, we have the Falklands veteran, Simon Weston. Simon, good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. 40 years ago, Argentina was an enemy. It's now very much not an enemy. The US are bringing them back into the fold. What do you think about these latest rumours that we may be cooperating with them militarily?
Well, there's every possibility. We don't know with politicians. They deflect all the time. They use language, as Andrew's already said, that can be very misleading. They're not having specific talks about weapons. What does that mean? It means nothing. What I have been told by the minister who's in charge of the islands, he said that it's off the table. There is no way that this current government will discuss anything about the sovereignty of the islands. But I don't know. You made a very good point, or your arms guy made a very good point about the fact that what happens in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years' time when they have different president there and they decide to use armed force. They'll have more aeroplanes. They'll probably have more ships by that point in time that they could probably launch an attack on the islands. My points would always come back to, though, they have to be very careful how they build up, if they do build up, because we have a lot of technical weapons here and long-range weapons, and we are more used to using them than they are. We've been at conflict for over 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. So there's a lot of expertise still in the UK that they don't possess in Argentina. But why Mr. Malay would want to spend so much money on arms when he has so much poverty and financial inequity in Argentina, when those billions that he's spending could be better spent on their own civilian infrastructure. I don't know what's going on. The last time I was there, about 3 years ago, everybody was saying that maybe the Russians were going to have a base there. Now, that being the case, I can see why all of a sudden they're getting F-14s, which an American-made plane, being given or being sold, but they've also been loaned a huge amount of money by the US. Did they have to pay for those jets with the money that they were loaned? So the money ends up going back to the US. I don't know what's going on with geopolitics. At the moment, it's a very unstable world, and it's really not being helped by the arms race that people seem to be engaged in. And when we start going to armed conflict, there's only there's only 2 or 3 groups of people that benefit: arms companies, the banks, without doubt, financial houses make a fortune because they bankroll all conflicts. So the banks in America will make a fortune, but the people who suffer are the civilians. So I don't know what Mr. Malay's plan is, but it does seem very, very dangerous to be arming somebody, and we can't be seen to play a part in that, giving anything to him that could be then turned and used against us, and certainly the islanders, who have to have the final say.
Well, Simon, I think the US would like Argentina to play a bigger role in South America in terms of military partnership and policing the Atlantic. I think the US are very keen, actually, for the Argentines to have a reasonable size military force. But do you think if we allow that by lifting this ban, we would be betraying the over 250, I think it was, British servicemen who lost their lives in the Falklands War?
There's 255 men died there, and plus 3 civilians. None of those people would have lost their lives had Galtieri not invaded. So, but they got mixed messages from politicians back here about whether we would defend the islands, and probably gave them the green light to go ahead and do what they did. If we lift the ban now, are we going to be doing the exact same thing? Giving them the green light to say, look, we've given you the equipment, you can do what the heck you want with it. Because we don't have a big enough force down there in reality. If they launched a huge attack, if they were able to buy 20 or 30 ships and send those across, we have no way of deterring those. We only have 1 ship down there. We have about 6 aircraft and about 3,000 men and women. That's not a big enough force to withstand a huge invasion force. So we have to be very, very careful with the way that we play this. But I certainly think that the ban, as far as British component parts, should stay in place. We can't control what the rest of the world does. If the Americans want to give them equipment, it would be the same as it was when we fought them in '82. They had lots of American equipment. And in fact, my ship was blown up with a F-4 Skyhawk, which was American surplus. The bombs they used, the 500-pound bombs, were all American surplus. But there was other component parts in the whole conflict as well. But, you know, so nothing new in them getting equipment, but it is something we have to be very careful of and very wary of how they're going to use it. But I go back to my point. It is better for Mr. Milei to base his money all around the civilian infrastructure of Argentina and look after his people, rather than then committing his people to be policemen of the South Atlantic, or to be, you know, whatever the Americans want to bid them to be. You know, the Americans can't be the puppet master. You know, Milei either is in charge or he isn't in charge. But what is he arming for? There's no threat from Chile. There's no threat from Uruguay. There's no threat from any of the other nations in South America. So what are they arming for? I don't understand why there's this need. I understand why they need to protect their own borders, as we know here. But the fact of the matter comes down to nobody's threatening them, but they don't have a navy. It's where the British Navy left them, at the bottom of the sea, and all their Air Force is absolutely shocking. So for them to get 20 or 24 F-14s is a major step.
Simon, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much, Simon Weston, for joining us on the programme this morning. Can you believe it's 43 years ago?
43 years, I can remember it well. I can remember when they were invaded and I thought, that's it, gone. We'll never get them back. And they sent the task force. I think it took 3 weeks for the task force to get there. Extraordinary.
Of course, the victory was credited with giving Margaret Thatcher her second term in office.
Yeah, she was the great warrior queen, wasn't she?
She
Prime
was,
Minister.
Absolutely.
Now, time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest ever cash prize. It's an incredible £85,000. Here's all the details you need to make it yours.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date, with an incredible £85,000 to be won. That's right, £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, with your feet up, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. £85,000 is a massive amount of money, and it could be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, find out about the latest way this government is cozying up to the EU.
We'll go through that more with the Brussels lover, Jonathan Liss. He loves Brussels. And Carol Malone, who does not love Brussels. But we love her.
I was in Brussels this time last week.
You were. This is Britain's News on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I think it's just good, honest, humble food. And yeah, as people get away from the ultra-processed stuff and get back to their roots, and what's better than a good jacket potato?
Do you know what? Sales of jacket spuds have gone through the roof. The big potatoes at Waitrose. There's been a 178% increase in people looking at recipes. And I just think it's wholesome, It's affordable, it's comfortable, you know, it makes you feel good, it's back to basics. That, I think, at the moment, sums up the nation.
I think very much it being affordable as well, with the climate we're living in at the moment, it definitely helps knowing, you know, you're putting food on the table for a reasonable price, and people appreciate that. And it's good, honest food. You can feed your kids, and kids are seeing it on social media, and they're getting excited about it as well. So they're not like, you know, obviously everyone sees all the big brands, and now there's all these, you know, jacket potato people out there, and we're giving them something that's healthy, and they want to eat it. And I think the parents appreciate that.
And Ben, I've seen your videos, a queue around the block to get to you. If people are in the mood to cook a potato tonight, of course we don't want to affect your sales, what is your sort of top of the pops spud recipe? Give it to us.
Oh, it's all about variety. It's picking the right potato is really important. Get a nice melody or a cara or culture or something like that. Nice and big. In the oven, if you can, hour and 20, get a nice crispy skin on there. Loads of butter, loads of cheese, and a nice curry on top or something. That's my go-to.
Ooh. Now, that was a final little curveball there you threw at the last minute there, Ben.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 27 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We've got our panellists, Jonathan Liss and Carol Malone. Malone, tell me about these ghastly Afghan raiders, who I don't believe, by the way, are 17.
Well, you're not the only person, because the people in the centre where they are now, it's in a place called Warrington in Staffordshire, they're saying they don't believe they're 17 either. But just to refresh people's memory, these are the two Afghan migrants. We believe that they were 16 and 17 at the time it happened. And they raped a young 15-year-old schoolgirl, dragged her into a secluded area and raped her. And have wrecked her life, frankly. Her impact statement in court was shocking, beyond sad. And now we hear that the Sun have done an expose today, say these two migrants are now living in this cushy centre in Warrington, where they are playing Jenga and Xbox and table tennis, and they have these support officers who talk to them about their needs, which I find astonishing. That I wonder if anyone's talking to this 15-year-old girl about her needs and what's happening to her. The staff are saying absolutely they think that these boys are older than they claim to be, and they're saying that they speak English when it suits them, but not when it doesn't. But you know, they're having lessons, they're having barista lessons, they're having hairdresser lessons, they're playing Xbox. They get 20 quid a week to spend in the tuck shop. We're paying for that.
And the lawyer, one of the lawyers for these boys said, they're men.
Yes. I know what you're going to say.
Said that if the public saw the film of the girl being dragged away, it would cause civil unrest.
He did, in civil disorder, and that's the reason they wanted the names hidden. But you know, that's lawyers that don't get what's actually happened. It's not about civil disorder. It's about the ruination of the life of a 15-year-old girl.
Jonathan, there's so many concerning aspects of this case, but Carol's right. One of the problems here is that there's no way of knowing how old these men are. They say they're 17. They don't look 17. We could be using some fairly scientific age checks to calculate their age. We're not. Why?
I don't know the answer to that question.
The Labour Party, it was in the Rwanda Act that obviously the Labour government ditched at the moment they got into office, was to start using some of the kind of more scientific scans, DNA tests, bone scans to actually ascertain the true age of asylum seekers. But the Labour ditched that.
Look, I find the first of all, before we talk about the story, obviously I want to just express my absolute sympathy for this girl. I think that she has to be the primary focus, and I think in general we need to spend a lot more time thinking about victims of child sexual abuse in this country, no matter who the perpetrators are. I think, you know, one of the problems I've had with this sort of the timbre of discussion over the last couple of weeks is that I kind of feel that we talk more about the perpetrators than the victims. But I'm very happy to talk about this story. In terms of the age checks, I don't know. There's something about putting sort of scientific checks on people makes me a little bit queasy.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? We're talking about the rape of a 15-year-old girl here. Well, how are you talking about it being distressing for them to have a checkup?
I'm not talking about it's distress for them. That's not what I said. Don't put words in my mouth. I was saying that in general, I find the idea of running some kind of test as though we're sort of carbon dating sort of an antique.
You do realise some of the people who claim to be 15, 16, 17 are put into schools with young children. So if it's a 35-year-old bloke, we need to know.
As with all these things, Carol, there are obviously extreme examples of things. Clearly,
just examples.
By not checking, we're creating a loophole that's there to be.
But also, I don't think that there is any completely fail-safe way.
No, but you can tell the difference between 16 and 26.
Of course, but most 26-year-olds are not going to look like 16-year-olds.
Because one of them claimed to be 16 at the time of going to trial, he cannot be deported.
Well, that is a separate issue, which I have.
That's a human rights lawyer playing the system, knowing exactly how it works, and it's appalling.
Having a cushy time in a holiday
Can you imagine every parent in this country, especially parents of daughters, are going to look at this story today of these boys not understanding that they've done anything wrong because they're having a really nice life, and they will be furious and upset at the same time. This is appalling. This is not teaching anyone a lesson. This is not getting rid of people who are preying on women and girls.
Carol, I think that as a general principle, I would say that these people should be treated the same as certainly any other person who's committed this kind of crime. I suppose that's the basic point. But then you can have a different conversation about what the facility should be in prisons and young offenders institutions.
I don't think brutal rapists should have a holiday camp.
No. Well, I'm not. Well, I don't. Well,
brutal rapists.
I don't think that they should either. But I'm not. I don't know enough about this facility to see if that's actually what it is.
Well, I've just told you about it.
Well, look,
do you actually understand? I mean, you, as a man, you maybe do not. But when a woman, and especially a young girl, is raped, this girl was a virgin when she was raped. Do you understand the effect that has on a girl's life? Do you understand that she will never get over it? There will never be a day in her life when she doesn't think about that. And yet, the people who did that to her are having a cushy time.
Carol, as I just said to you, I think that you can have a conversation about the facilities that are offered in prisons and young offenders institutions.
So what is your beef here, then? I don't really understand what you're saying. Are you trying to excuse them? What are you saying?
I'm not actually having a beef. I wasn't even going to talk about this story. I don't know enough about this facility to see, to judge whether it's excessive, whether other facilities are like it, whether this is an outlier, whether this is
But do you agree in principle? Do you agree in principle that they maybe shouldn't be having hairdressing lessons and barista lessons?
Okay, what I would say is that in this country we still maintain a semblance of having prison as a place for rehabilitation and to stop recidivism.
Jonathan, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to jump in there. We'll have time for more in the next hour. But next we've got your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories. Pharmacists are said to be running low on flu jabs in certain places as the super flu outbreak continues to sweep across Britain. Chemists warned people who want to be vaccinated should expect to travel or try several pharmacies amid a shortage of appointments in some places. Elsewhere, next week's strike by resident doctors in England may be averted after ministers offered the BMA a fresh deal. The doctors' union has agreed to put the offer to members over the coming days. If they support it, the 5-day walkout starting on Wednesday, the 17th of December, could be called off. Venezuela has accused the US of piracy after an oil tanker was seized off the country's coast. Donald Trump announced the operation had taken place during a meeting of business leaders at the White House, telling reporters, "We've just seized a tanker, the largest one ever seized." And homelessness charities have warned that ministers are falling short of what is desperately needed to end Britain's homelessness crisis. It comes as the government published its new plan to tackle rough sleeping in Britain, which pledges £3.5 billion of funding to crack down on the issue. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Coming up next, it's Christmas jumper day. Where's yours?
I'd have thought.
Like it didn't blow up.
Everyone, we survived another Christmas.
Campaigners have launched a gruesome Christmas dinner advert and their own range of vegan wool jumpers. Not an oxymoron.
Whatever they are.
They'll join us in the studio next. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant congestion has been reported on the eastbound route of the M4 at junction 33 near Capel-Lanilton, severely affecting the off-slip road. Drivers are advised to exercise patience while travelling in this direction, as delays are possible due to the heavy traffic and ongoing roadworks. If you're planning to travel to Wales, remain mindful of potential hold-ups. Moreover, there are disruptions on Avanti West Coast and cross-country train services between Birmingham New Street and Wolverhampton due to line maintenance. Passengers on these routes should check schedules in advance and plan for additional travel time. Stay informed at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
.39, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Miriam.
Now, animal welfare campaigners PETA have launched some gruesome and graphic Christmas jumpers depicting the slaughter of animals commonly found on the festive dinner table.
Well, they're available for sale on the charity's website, Christmas Grinch website, in my view, and they've been launched in a bid to encourage Britons to go vegan.
Well, joining us now is the Associate Director of Media and Communications at PETA UK, Jennifer White. Jennifer, good morning. Thank you very much for coming into the studio.
Is that your vegan Christmas jumper?
It is, yes. This is PETA's Chris Massacre jumper, and it's really forcing people to acknowledge the disconnect between celebrating the season of peace and goodwill by having the chopped up body parts of tortured animals on their plate. You know, for animals, the festive season really is a massacre, but it doesn't have to be this way. You know, we can all have a wonderful Christmas, but just simply eat more vegan foods.
Oh, but I'm struggling with your jumper. What is that supposed to depict?
It's two dying turkeys, I think.
Yeah,
is it?
We have a turkey whose throat has been slit in the slaughterhouse, which of course is the reality of what happens to these birds. You know, you see the perfectly packaged centrepiece, but this is what's really going on. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, then I really think you need to sit and think about what that means.
It doesn't make me uncomfortable, actually.
It's a free country, and I 100% respect your right to do this, to campaign, to produce jumpers. Go for it. You know, it's your political right to do it. But don't you think the people who do eat meat all year round already know that animals are being killed to sit on the table?
Well, look, we're not trying to deny anyone that freedom of choice, but we just want to help people make informed decisions. And on PETA's website, you know, we have hours of footage showing what goes on inside of slaughterhouses. And actually, most people, they don't want to watch it. They can't look at it. It's too horrible. And if something is too horrible, then you really shouldn't be buying it. And, you know, it's 2025. You can get vegan versions of all your Christmas favourites. You can get a vegan turkey roast, vegan pigs and blankets, even vegan goose fat for baked potatoes.
And that is vegan wool. Can you explain what vegan wool is?
Yes, this is a cotton blend. So vegan wool can be made from plants, it can be synthetic, all of which is better for the environment, by the way, than sheep's wool. And many people don't know that in the wool industry, sheep are beaten, they are punched, they are kicked, and it's because shearers are paid by the volume rather than by the hour. So the shearers work incredibly quickly. You know, sheep are left with these gaping, bloody wounds. Some of them even die in the shearing sheds. And
I'm sure if the sheep industry was here, they'd deny this.
Well, we have footage. You can go to PETA's website, you can watch that for yourself.
But if you don't shear sheep, they overheat and die. So you have to shear them.
PETA has done over 5 continents worth of investigations into over 100 shearing sheds, and each one reveals rampant cruelty. The only reason that sheep produce as much wool as they do is because we have engineered them to be more profitable. And we see this every time animals are treated as commodities. Their best interests go out of the window. You know, sheep don't need humans to shear them. They existed without human interference, but we have made this a problem. But we don't need to be wearing sheep's wool. You can wear plant wool. And last month, PETA actually celebrated the first ever plant wool month, which raised awareness for all the incredible plant wools available, like hemp, cotton, linen, tencel. And they're better for the environment, they're better for sheep, and they make lovely jumpers like this one.
And that's your focus on it closely. It's very attractive. Thank you.
But how often can you buy? Where can you buy a vegan wool jumper? I mean, are they commonly sold in shops?
They're on the high street. They're high end. Yeah, absolutely.
Does vegan wool just mean anything that isn't animal wool?
Well, yes.
Okay. So pretty much all materials.
And are they more expensive?
They don't need to be, no. You can really find a plant wool jumper from any price point. But the main thing is that we don't need to be wearing the fleece of sheep. You know, wool belongs to sheep. We don't need to wear it to stay cosy. And, you know, vegan wool is hypoallergenic. You know, it's so much cozier and warmer, and it doesn't involve animals to die. So it really
What are you going to have for your Christmas lunch?
Oh, that's a very good question. So I always get the M&S vegan turkey crown, and it has all of the taste and the nostalgia of your favourite Christmas meal. They also do vegan pigs and blankets. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a bit of an M&S haul, actually.
If animals could be reared for meat, sheared for wool, milked, had eggs taken without them suffering and treated humanely, would you still be a vegan?
Well, the point that we're really making is that no animal goes to their death willingly, but billions are killed every single year. And there is no justification for killing an animal for a fleeting moment of taste. We can all thrive on a vegan diet, and there are so many incredible alternatives available. And that's why everyone really should have a vegan Christmas. Animals deserve to be shown goodwill.
I'm curious that you're going to have a vegan pig in blanket. Why are you having anything?
Send you some. I'm going to get you some vegan pigs and blankets.
But why do you want anything that resembles a pig?
Well, that's the thing. Pigs and blankets don't resemble pigs, do they?
Right.
You know,
I think
the turkey does.
if you don't agree with meat and meat.
The vegan turkey crown's going to resemble a turkey.
Not necessarily, but you also don't have to have that. You could have a nut roast. You know, there are so many options. There's something for everyone. You don't have to have the corpse of a bird.
Vegan
who
gravy?
was tortured and didn't want
With
to
your
die.
turkey crown?
Absolutely.
Vegan gravy?
Show that Bisto gravy, the original red one, that's accidentally vegan.
Accidentally vegan?
Well, apparently it's got all sorts of...
I didn't know I was a vegan. I've got that register.
all sorts of ultra-processed...
I've got something vegan in my, I've got something vegan in my pantry at last.
I suppose it all comes down to, Jennifer, whether or not you think it's morally legitimate for animals to be used for human purposes or not. And I suppose that's probably where the ultimate disagreement comes.
Well, exactly. But I do also think that a lot of people aren't acknowledging it. And that's what, you know, PETA also did a Christmas advert this year, which is in cinemas, which is also highlighting that disconnect, that people are not thinking about who had to suffer and die to be on that Christmas dinner table, and that it's completely at odds with the message of compassion and goodwill. And why shouldn't we be showing that to animals as well? They have close family bonds, they are individuals, they have a desire to live, and yet, you know, this is what happens to them. Billions being slaughtered and killed every single year.
And have you had any feedback from any of your campaigns? Do people come to you and say, well, I was a meat eater, but actually I changed my mind after seeing your...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, very few people are born vegan. We all make that decision. And for me, it was when I realised that animals, you know, are not consenting to this. And for the Christmas jumpers, we only made them live yesterday, and we've had so many orders come in. And I think it's because they are like a tool of activism. You know, you can wear them, it's a conversation starter, and it will get meat eaters thinking about who they're actually eating. You know, why does this make people uncomfortable?
Animals are, of course, a key part of the Christmas nativity story.
Live ones, though.
Yeah, live ones. Yeah, but I imagine those sheep who were at the manger ended up on the shepherd's table.
Well,
lunch table.
Just because, you know,
so what I'm saying is
we've been doing
it since the birth of Christ.
But we know that that doesn't make it right.
Okay.
Traditions are always changing. People are always evolving. There's no excuse for cruelty.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and defending PETA, and I'm sure people will make their way to your website if they want one of your attractive jumpers. Thank you very much.
Do you think it's
Jennifer
attractive,
White.
that jumper?
From a distance, it just looks like a normal festive jumper, I think. You have to look
How
quite
much
closely.
will it cost, by the way?
They're £75 each.
£75?
Including
Oh, my God,
cheap
that's
to
not
buy a
cheap.
sheep. You can't put a price on
sheep.
compassion.
Yeah, buy a sheep. Get a lot of lamb chops for £75.
Andrew. Anyway, we really appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Jennifer. It was really, really good to see you. Well, up next.
We're talking about the growing calls for social media platforms to do more to protect children online as child sexual abuse surges. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Are you heading away this weekend? Well, it's turning unsettled through the Canary Islands, but there is plenty of sunshine to come for the Mediterranean. But a spell of wet weather through Friday will push through Tenerife as well as Madeira and through Lisbon as well as towards Barcelona. Plenty of cloud and outbreaks of showers for Nice. But as we look further east, high pressure dominates, and that will bring plenty of sunny and dry weather to parts of Greece in particular. So temperatures here will start to climb towards the high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Well, there's been a really disturbing surge in online child sex abuse. Figures for England and Wales show there were 51,672 offences. Isn't it shocking for child sexual exploitation and abuse online in 2024?
Well, joining us now is online grooming expert and former Met investigator John Taylor. John, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the show. I'm sure this will be no surprise to you, but nevertheless, it is extremely concerning that these numbers continue to rise and rise. What do you think can be done about it?
It's always been, yes, good morning, everyone. It's always been that there's three methods to actually tackle this. It's either going to be through legislation, or it's going to be through policing it, or it's going to be through education. Now, unfortunately, these numbers that we see are horrific, but I'll be honest, this is probably the tip of the iceberg, or as I say sometimes, we're not even in the boat looking at the iceberg. This is how big this issue is. So it's no surprise, as you say, about these numbers. So what can be done? And I read the article, there was a question of whether or not more can be done by the platforms. But the Online Safety Act is never going to work anyway, it's never going to prevent this. This isn't going to happen. The platforms will always say they're doing as much as they can. And they talk about things about indecent images, obviously child sexual abuse images. But we've got to look at the different categories here, because a lot of these reports will be coming from child on child, which is a child sending an explicit image of themselves because they think it's fun, they think it's funny, or they might be in a relationship that then goes bad. So you actually have to look at that. It's not as simple as saying these are all, as the report says, indecent images, or child sexual abuse images. But of course, the big issue would be, what can we do? So when you split that down, you think, well, education will tell children, you can't do this. Why? One, it's illegal. Two, it's going to affect your future. And you may get, you're going to be embarrassed and you may get involved with the police. Then you've got the other sinister side to it, which is the rise in sextortion, which are organized crime groups coming out of, West Africa, coming out of Southeast Asia, where they're catfishing boys to actually send images of themselves. So what we're now seeing is, if you like, different categories of offending, which is taking place, which is very, very, very difficult to police, and nothing that the platforms can do about this. These are the big issues.
John, I'm so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for coming on this morning and sharing your expertise. John Taylor there. And Andrew, I just think this is so unbelievably frightening. Any child with a camera has got an access to their own abuse.
And these are just the offences we know about.
Yeah,
there'll be so many more that are unreported and unrecorded.
Absolutely.
It's an epidemic.
It is. Well, we must talk more about it. But still ahead, flip-flop Labour strike again, this time about the House of Lords. We'll give you all the details. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day with sunny spells for many eastern areas. However, further west, rain will move in, and across the north, still another fairly breezy day, though not as windy as it was earlier on this week. So some cloud around across many eastern and northern areas, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly across eastern areas of England throughout this morning and into the afternoon. But further west, cloud will thicken after a fairly bright start. It's quite a brisk breeze as well, starting to pick up, and rain will push into parts of northwest Scotland, far west of Wales, southwestern England, as well as Northern Ireland. It is a mild day though out there after a pretty mild start this morning as well. Now that rain will gradually move eastwards throughout this evening, but it will linger for parts of Scotland through much of this evening, and once it does clear through, we will start to see much clearer skies move in through the second part of the night, and with that temperatures will start to fall away, so we're down into mid-single figures across parts of western Northern Ireland to start this evening. Now the rain may turn heavy across parts of Wales, southwest England, particularly over any high ground, but it will be a fairly short-lived spell of wet weather that we're expecting through this evening. It will push eastwards throughout the night, becoming a slightly weaker feature. So lots of cloud ahead of that, fairly dry across many southeastern areas, spell of wet weather for many central areas, and then clearer skies developing from the north and west, spreading into parts of West Wales as well as southwestern England. And here we could see a touch of frost by Friday morning. So a dry and sunny start to the day for much of Northern Ireland, Scotland, western areas of England and Wales, but a thick blanket of cloud and some wet weather though persisting across the east throughout Friday morning. It may take a little while to clear, but the rain's not going to be particularly heavy, and once it does clear, that sunshine will become much more widespread, bringing many of us a fine end to the week, but it will feel a little bit fresher out there on Friday afternoon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with, each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 11th of December, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, grotesque and state-sanctioned chemical castration. That's how campaigners have described a trial of puberty-blocking drugs on more than 200 children as legal action is launched.
Keir Starmer accused of cronyism. He's putting more Labour members in the House of Lords, 25 in one go, but no peers for Reform UK. Jobs for the boys?
That's right, 25 new peers for Labour from the party that called Boris Johnson's resignation honours list a carousel of cronies. How is this defensible?
If they vote, as doctors vote, to end next week's strikes, we will move forward with that immediately in the new year. We can draw a line under the strikes, we can end the disruption.
Well, that's the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. He's put forward a last-minute offer to stop doctor strikes as superflu hits Britain. But there's no pay increase on the table.
Birmingham Council's bin strike chaos has tripled agency spending as the rubbish continues to pile up in our once proud second city.
9 months on to the day since the all-out strike began here in Birmingham. We met the workers still striking in Perry Bar this morning, but still here in parts of the city, rubbish continues to pile up on the streets.
Before the break, we were talking about this astonishing rise in online child sexual abuse, and what tends to happen is that children, girls and boys, more often girls, but lots of boys being caught up in it too, are enticed by groomers or other children to send sexual images of themselves, which are then used to blackmail them or put on the internet or ridicule them. And, you know, children are utterly defenceless against this, and I just think we haven't got anywhere near the bottom of what's going on here.
I mean, what did we say? 57,000 offences?
That's just
the ones we know about.
Yeah.
That's the problem. As ever, tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories this hour. The government has denied claims from Argentina's president that the two countries are in talks about lifting an arms export ban that has been in place since the Falklands War. A spokesman said there are no specific talks taking place after Javier Milei told the Daily Telegraph negotiations with Britain were underway to lift weapons export restrictions. The government's policy since the Falklands War, more than 40 years ago, has been that weapons with British parts are not allowed to be exported to Argentina if they are judged to enhance Argentine military capability. Javier says he wants to see the Falklands handed to Argentina via diplomatic means after previously saying he would not relinquish the claim to sovereignty over the island but wouldn't seek conflict with the UK. The government spokesman rebutted this as well, saying sovereignty of the Falkland Islands is not up for negotiation and we will defend its right to self-determination. Pharmacists are said to be running low on flu jabs in certain places as the super flu outbreak continues to sweep across Britain. Chemists warned people who want to be vaccinated should expect to travel or try several pharmacies amid a shortage of appointments in some places. It comes as the NHS said it was bracing for an unprecedented flu wave this winter, with thrice as many Londoners being hospitalised compared to last year. Some 106 flu patients were in critical care beds in England last week, up from 69 the previous week. This is also a record number for this time of the year. Elsewhere, next week's strike by resident doctors in England may be averted after ministers offered the British Medical Association a fresh deal. The doctors' union has agreed to put the offer to members over the coming days, and if they support it, the 5-day walkout starting on December 17th could be called off. But the offer does not include any promises of extra pay. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has been adamant he will not negotiate on that, adding that a resident doctor strike over Christmas would have a much different degree of risk than previous walkouts. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
Last year they got a 29% pay rise, and unlike the productivity reforms that we were asking for, nothing was asked for in return. And this year they came back and said they wanted a 26% pay rise. Now what we're getting with the NHS is more and more money being put in and actually less and less being done for patients. The productivity of the NHS has gone through the floor. So I do think you need to get this balance right. We know the BMA is an incredibly militant union, and actually I think striking over the Christmas period when we know that you're more likely to have pressures on the NHS because of flu, this happens every year, I think is a terrible thing for patients.
Sir Keir Starmer will spend today touring Norfolk as he investigates how £3 billion of government bus funding is being rolled out across England. The Prime Minister insisted reliable bus travel shouldn't cost the earth ahead of the visit, which is being carried out to mark a multi-year bus funding settlement recently announced by the Department for Transport. Sir Keir Starmer is also seeking to promote other significant public transport interventions, including the £3 bus fare cap, which has been extended until 2027 and prevents the cost of single journeys rising above that price. Homelessness charities have warned that ministers are falling short of what is desperately needed to end Britain's homelessness crisis. It comes as the government published its new plan to tackle rough sleeping in Britain, which pledges £3.5 billion of funding to crack down on the issue. But charities have said Labour's national plan to end homelessness falls short and contains important gaps, meaning the party will not be able to achieve their stated goal of halving the number of homeless people by 2030. Crisis, an organisation that supports the homeless, also argues that only £100 million of the funding announced in the strategy is new. Homelessness Minister Alison McGovern spoke to GB News.
More and more now, people are staying on the streets for longer, so we've got to target that issue. Underneath this all is a goal to prevent homelessness properly. We want to increase the rate at which, if somebody does go to their council and says, I think I might become homeless, we want to increase the rate at which the council can stop that happening, because the best policy on homelessness is to stop it before it starts. Those are our new goals. We've backed it with money, and I am confident that we can make progress over the months and years to come.
Venezuela has accused the US of piracy after an oil tanker was seized off the country's coast. Donald Trump announced the operation had taken place during a meeting of business leaders at the White House. He told reporters, "We've just seized a tanker, the largest one ever seized." Attorney General Pam Bondi said the US forces executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. But Venezuela's government said the seizure constitutes a blatant theft and an act of international piracy. It marks another escalation from the US after months of pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The White House accuses Mr. Maduro of presiding over a narco-trafficking operation in Venezuela, which he denies. And those are the latest headlines. For now, more news from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a snapshot of the markets. The pound will buy you $1.3370 and €1.1427. The price of gold is £3,152.63 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,667 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates, and you've been getting in touch on your say. And I have to say the viewers are very much in agreement with your view on vegan jumpers, Andrew. Alistair says the vegan lifestyle is purely a money-making business using fear of supposed animal cruelty. Can you remember how much the jumpers are, Andrew?
It nearly fell off my chair when she said. I asked earlier if you called, said, are they very reasonably priced? Oh, yeah. £75.
I know.
Blimey.
£75.
And it was horrible.
And also, it's a political statement, right? But you could never wear it to a party. Would you really wear a picture of a decapitated, bleeding turkey to a party? I don't think anyone would talk to you.
I think there's a certain type of party where that would be popular. And it would be a
not
party
one that I want an invitation to.
And it would one I'd be never invited to.
Exactly. I think that's true. Well, Mark says humans were not meant to be vegan. We don't have the bodies for it or the stomachs. Also true, you can get a lot of protein from vegetables if you really try, but there's a lot of teenage girls who go down the veganism route and become very anemic because they're not getting enough iron, they don't grow properly. So, yeah, we're definitely not meant to be vegans. And Lisa says, I take great pleasure in eating a 10-course meal of meat in front of Jennifer from PETA. Well, there you go. I do think Jennifer was very good, though, to come on the channel and make your case.
Yeah. Wearing a completely hideous jumper that I couldn't work out what bit was supposed to be the turkey.
Do you know, I'll tell you what it would be good for, Halloween.
Yeah.
Maybe you should try that. They could have a second sale next October. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has been accused of cronyism after publishing his list of 25 new peers for the House of Lords. Just a reminder, you can vote in today's Friends of GB News You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code that's on the screen now. And we're asking...
Should the House of Lords be abolished, yes or no? Let us know what you think, and we'll bring you those results later in the show. So that means with his 25 peers he's created 62 since the general election, and in 2022 he said he was going to abolish the House of Lords in the interest of democracy. And here's the thing I think will stick in the craw too. He's yet again refused to grant Reform, who got 4 million votes at the last general election, a single peer. So they've got one in the House of Lords, and that's courtesy of a Tory who defected. But and they could win the next general election quite easily if you look at the polls, and they haven't got a single member in the House of Lords.
And that's a serious problem for them, because if they do win the election, how are they going to get any of the legislation through the Lords? I personally think they should fill it with hereditaries again. Just hereditaries. That's my view.
Well, and of course they disappear in the next few weeks, I think.
They're off,
There's about 86.
Very sad.
There could have been a deal. Why didn't this government just retire them?
I know.
As
just
they got
to the end of
age.
these.
Yeah.
Well, you can become a friend of GB News for free. Here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, welcome back.
Sorry.
What's up, Andrew?
My chair.
Your chair's very low today.
It is very low.
I look like
These
really
are quite
tall.
new chairs, but they're not very good.
You need a cushion. Well, we're now joined by GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, good morning. Bring us up to date on this cronyism row.
I'm wondering why Andrew's going down in the world, but I'll move on from that. Perhaps he's waiting for his call-up for the House of Lords. That's right,
I don't think anybody's going to give me a peerage, Chris. So.
You know too much.
Yeah. And there were too many bodies to bury it.
Quite right. 25 new peers for Labour. I've worked out a back of the fag packet some of what this means to us as taxpayers. £1.3 million a year for those 25 if they claim £332 a day for their allowance, and if they sit between 150 and 160 days a year, which is the average days that Lords sit. That's why these numbers matter. That's why people think that any government should try and bring down the size of the House of Lords. I think more than 900 members now. That's going up towards 1,000 with these new creations, of course, by Labour and for other parties too, with a handful going to the Tories and Lib Dems. I think it is hard to defend. If you look at the names here, several former Labour staffers getting those roles. They are axing 92 hereditary peers in April. Again, that seems to be unfinished business from 1997 when the new Labour government came in. But the reason to do it is falling away. Now, Labour's manifesto says they'll make peers retire at 80. That hasn't yet been enacted. That's not before time, although some look at some good peers like Alf Dubs, Lord Dubs. He's over 80. Why should he quit? Of course, he's a well-regarded campaigner on children's rights, children's issues. It's unfair to remove his voice in the House of Lords. It's not easy, but simply this is raw politics. You've got a government here with a huge majority. They want to rebalance the House of Lords to make sure they get more votes votes through, maybe, get more support in the Lords. They feel there aren't enough Labour peers there. And that's what happens, because there are big battles down the track, notably on jury trials. I fully expect the House of Lords to try and amend the attempt to end the right to a jury established in 1215 in Magna Carta with some form of sunset clause in the House of Lords. That's a big battle coming probably next year. So this simply, Andrew and Miriam, and you're as inverse as I am in this, this is simply politics, and it's quite grubby.
And Chris, I think there'll be some eyebrows arched all over the place by the fact still no members of the House of Lords for reform who need people in the House of Lords so they get to know how the place operates, how it works, because if they do form the next government, they won't have a single member of the House of Lords until, well, Farage will have to create hundreds, literally.
Well, they've got one, Matthew Offord, of course, the new Scottish peer. He's going to give up his peerage to fight for the next Scottish elections. I should say, by the way, he's on, there's quite a big moment tonight on TV, if we can bear to watch bits of BBC Question Time, because all 4 leaders in Scotland are on that show tonight. It's almost like a tryout, I think, for those who want to be First Minister in those elections next May. And Offord, of course, is standing there. The Reform do have a single peer, Matthew Offord. The Greens also don't have many, by the way. They're doing well in the polls. I think it's deeply annoying. I know it's annoying to Nigel Farage. I saw him last night. He's upset about it. He's got a problem. If he wins the forecast majority in the House of Commons, which may happen, looking at the polls, of course, many a slip between cup and lip before the election. If that happens, he needs immediate support in House of Lords to get his agenda through. He can't do it without any peers. So what do? Do you create 400 peers overnight, like a Mooney wedding? That's unlikely. You can't really do that under current rules. You can create 2 peers a day. 2 peers a day means you won't have the peers you need in the Lords for 2 years. That can't happen for a Reform party trying to form a government. So lots of problems here for Reform going forward, but he's very cross indeed about not getting any Reform peers in the latest round.
I'm sure he is, Chris. Chris Hope, thanks so much. He was our political editor. Chris mentioned Lord Dubs being over 80. He's 93.
Gosh.
Can you imagine? We've got a member of the House, but he's still very good and very active.
Some of them work unbelievably hard and very late into their lives.
I often bump into him there, and he's an indefatigable campaigner at the age of 93.
Well, we're joined now by political consultant at PLMR, Dominic Moffat. Dominic, good morning. Thank you so much for joining the show. The idealism from Labour didn't last very long, did it? They've got into government and they've realised they need enough peers to force their legislation through. That's what's going on here, isn't it?
Absolutely. The last government, the Conservative government, David Cameron created something like 125 peers over 2 years because he wanted to bolster his majority in the House of Lords, and that's when he already had a working majority there. The government has found it really difficult to already get some stuff through the House of Lords, and that's presenting a real problem. And as Chris Hope said, with the future legislation coming down the tracks, which is probably going to be even more controversial, there's going to be even more opposition in the House of Lords to what's to Labour's agenda, and it's really important that the government has got the ability to pass that.
It's just embarrassing to me, Dominic, that this country with a population of 70-odd million has got more than 900 representatives in the House of Lords. United States population 330 million. The combined numbers of the House of Representatives and the Senate is barely 600. We just don't need this many peers.
Well, I think having a strong body of people with lots of different experience, with a broad background, is a fantastic thing to have in our legislature. MPs come from a more narrow background as these days, and the House of Lords presents a fantastic antidote to that. The House of Lords doesn't have primacy. They're not in charge of all government. They're not in charge of legislation. The primacy of the government means that the House of Commons, because of the majority there, is fundamentally in charge. And the Salisbury Convention means that governments can get their manifestos through the House of Lords. I think fundamentally it's a good thing that we've got a broad House of Lords that can comment on lots of different things with a wealth of experience behind it. And I think that's what the peers we've seen appointed represent.
It's full of cronies, Dominic, including, in the latest House of Lords, there's a man called Matthew Doyle, who was head of communications for the government, but he was so useless he got fired. And when he was in opposition, he crafted the message for Labour when Boris Johnson flooded the House with the House of Lords and said, it's a carousel of cronies. And now he's part of that carousel of cronies. The hypocrisy is staggering.
I wouldn't use that language because I don't think that is what the House of Lords is. I think it is a broad group of people with a fantastic range of experiences, and it's a good thing that we have people from all different walks of life. And Matthew Doyle is somebody who also shares that and has worked for the Commonwealth, has worked for the government, and I think that brings a fantastic range of experience into the House of Lords.
Sounds like you're auditioning.
You'd look great.
I don't think they're going to offer me one.
You look good in ermine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dominic. Thanks for joining us this morning. Of course, Andrew, the House of Lords used to be a lot more powerful than it is today. But in 1911, the government of the day passed the Parliament Act to stop the Conservative majority Lords from blocking the Liberal government's budget. And since then, it's only been able to delay legislation rather than...
And quite right, because the elected House of Commons must be superior because it's elected.
Absolutely.
And it should never have been allowed, the Lords, to block finance bills, although perhaps it could have blocked the wretched budget.
Which side you're on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I do think your point about cronyism is a very good one, and I don't see why political appointments are supposedly better than hereditary peers who don't owe anybody anything.
Sue Gray lasted 5 minutes as Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff. She couldn't do the job. Where is she? She's now in the House of Lords. Yes. They get rewarded for incompetence. And do you know who else has gone in the House of Lords in this new list? Rachel Reeves, Chief of Staff. Has the build-up to the budget been the most shambolic and chaotic ever?
Gosh.
She's his Chief of Staff. She's gone in the House of Lords. Again, cronyism and a reward for incompetence. Staggering.
And the previous Conservative Chief Whip went in last time. He was deeply unpopular and credited with the downfall of the government.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Bring back the hereditaries, you see.
Now, time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, £85,000. Incredible. Here's all you need to win it.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date with an incredible £85,000 to be won. That's right, £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you with your feet up, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. £85,000 is a massive amount of money and it could be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, could a last-minute offer from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, prevent a doctor strike starting next week?
We're going through that more with Jonathan Liss and Carol Malone. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You have to look
How
quite
much will it
closely.
cost, by the way?
They're £75 each.
£75?
Including
Oh
postage.
my God,
Cheaper
that's
to
not
buy a
cheap.
sheep.
£75? £75? £75?
So we get the message. Andrew was shocked.
I was shocked.
You will not be buying anybody that.
It's a hideous jumper in the first place. It's made of vegan wool, whatever that is, and it's 75 quid.
But it's also not a good message to have two hanging turkeys on a Christmas jumper. It doesn't make people happy.
It's a free market. If there's demand, people
Not
will
exactly
buy
free
it.
at £75.
Well,
Exactly.
as you can see, we're joined by political commentator Jonathan Liss and broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone in the studio. Jonathan, I want to start with you with the House of Lords story.
Yes.
What's your view of the House of Lords? Is it perfectly legitimate for Starmer to bung it full of cronies to get his legislation through?
Well, I've got two opinions on this. The first one is that the House of Lords should be fully elected, like any other democratic legislature in the world. I don't think that we should have bishops in it. I think that Iran is the only other country that has clergy in their parliament. It's a complete embarrassment that Britain goes around the world lecturing people about democracy while having a completely unelected House of Parliament.
Only Anglican bishops, no Catholic.
Yeah, exactly. So it's completely outrageous and absurd, a huge anachronism. And I support Labour in having an ambition to make it fully elected. We know the previous governments have tried and failed to do this. The first thing they're doing is getting rid of the hereditary peers, which is long overdue. That was, if you remember, Tony Blair kept 92 hereditary peers in as a kind of compromise while he was reforming the laws. But in terms of Starmer, if you look at the number of peers he's appointed in his first 18 months in office, it's half, it's 40, it's 62. Compare that with Tony Blair, who created 101 in his first 18 months. David Cameron did 245 peers across his time in office. So in terms of the grand context, it's not so much. But if you look at the number of peers at the moment, the Tories have 282 and Labour has 209. So whatever you think about Labour and the Conservatives, there is not a democratic there is not sort of a representation in the House of Lords. So yes, I think that Starmer is right, while the Lords is being reformed, to try and recalibrate the political balance of the law.
Well, he wanted to abolish...
the fact he's not putting a single reform peer in there?
Well, we know why, because he's terrified of him. He doesn't want them to block any of his legislation. But
it's democratic.
And you know, Starmer and Labour have wanted to ban the Lords forever. Long time opposed them. They called it indefensible, the Lords. But I want to talk about Sharon Davis, who has just been made a peer, and it's well deserved.
A former swimmer.
Olympic former swimmer. This lady has shown the most immense courage over the past few years. She was one of 3 voices out there who were trying to get trans women banned from women's sport, trans women being biological men from women's sport. There was her, there was Martina Navratilova, and there's J.K. Rowling. And in conducting this fight, almost single-handedly, because a lot of other athletes wouldn't get involved because they were frightened of the financial penalties, she has had the most unutterable time. She lost almost every job that she had. She had well-paid jobs, well-paid contracts. They dropped her like a stone. She had to use her mother's inheritance, I'm sure I read somewhere, to sustain her while she was trying to work. She even, these activists, the trans activists, even rang her kids' schools and berated her children for her opinions on trans. Now, and she went on, and still she fought on. And she almost lost everything. She talked about being almost bankrupt and that the money was running out. And this, I think, is just reward for... She conducted a campaign that she absolutely believed in. It wasn't anti-trans, it was pro-women's sport. And that's the important point to make. It was about women's sport. And I believe that she's won that battle. She's one of the people who's helped win that battle. And now she's been made...
She's a bright star in that list, because what I think is staggering, Miriam didn't realise, Rachel Reeves, Chief of Staff, during this entire chaotic preparation for the budget, Katie Martin has been given a peerage. Can you believe it?
Well, Boris Johnson made one of his assistants.
A reward for incompetence.
Yes.
A reward for incompetence.
Well, she shouldn't have a seat in the legislature for life, Miriam.
Matthew Doyle, who got the boot as his third or fourth communications secretary, he's gone in there.
Andrew, I think that... I don't know what you think about the Lords, but I think it should be fully elected, because to avoid these sort of things happening...
But, Jonathan, we look at the House of Commons, which is fully elected, and I have to say, with all due respect to MPs, because it is an impossible job, the calibre is very
Miriam,
poor.
what do we want here? Do we want to have a parliament of people who some authority on high considers to be the brightest and the best, or do we actually want to have people choosing their representatives, no matter how flawed that is? We need to encourage better people to stand for
What
parliament.
we don't want is people being rewarded for incompetence and government credit.
Well, that has been the case for a time immemorial, Carol. Failure, people lose their seats in the Commons, they get elevated to the Lords, and people get rewarded for cronyism.
You know, I'm embarrassed that it's the second largest legislature in the world.
Yes, they don't all turn up.
And it's a gravy train. People turn up, they get their stipend, and then they go away. Yeah,
I mean,
so it completely needs to die, need a reform.
There are some peers that work unbelievably hard.
Yeah, there are.
And actually add far more value, if you like, to the system than most MPs. But there are those who don't turn up. But the problem that I have with the idea of electing them is that the motivations for elected politicians who are elected term by term is always to win votes. What can I say that's popular? What can I say that's going to be popular with my constituents, with the electorate? That doesn't necessarily...
You're making a case for absolute monarchy then. Let's just ditch the House of Commons as well then.
The fudge that we have at the moment between a fully elected chamber on one hand and those who are supposed to be there on merit forever on the other is actually quite a good compromise.
I just think that people should be answerable to the people that they're making laws for. That's a basic principle. What you can have as a compromise is to have longer terms, for example, 6 years, 8 years, so you don't have a constant election cycle. That's what you have in the Senate, for example, 6 years. And that is one way. But I just think the current system where people get rewarded for cronyism and they're not answerable to anybody and they have a job for life is completely indefensible.
Let's quickly talk about the doctors, because Wes Streeting thinks he may have struck a deal to stop this strike next week, which would be appalling during a flu epidemic.
I hope he has struck a deal. I hope he hasn't given them any more money, because he said he wasn't going to, because they've had, in the past 3 years, they had a 26% pay rise recently, and 26% recently, and 28.9% over the last 3 years. So they don't really need any more money. But it is appalling that people who take an oath to do no harm are talking about going on strike at Christmas, at a time when the NHS already has a skeleton staff, at a time when we have what we're told is one of the most dangerous flu outbreaks in years, and that in days will take over the biggest amount that we've ever had. And we have our junior doctors who are going to walk out on those vulnerable people, many of whom will die. You know, we lose thousands every year anyway without a doctor strike. Think how many we're going to lose if people go on strike, if these doctors go on strike at Christmas. I was just going to say, the BMA, the doctors' union, this is a militant union now, and they have destroyed the reputation of doctors, I think. I think, you know, doctors need to look very hard at the people representing them now, because the first strike, people agreed with them getting a pay rise, but now they're just seeing this as willful cruelty.
But, Jonathan, it's not only about pay rise. One of the problems with there are nowhere near enough training posts. Half of doctors this year didn't get one. This is something that West Streeting has now offered to fix.
Yeah, and we have a real problem here. You talk to doctors and they say that they've qualified and they literally can't get a job. Yeah. We're always talking about we need to train more doctors. We are training the doctors, we just don't have jobs for them. That is completely insane, given the state of the NHS, given all the shortages that we see in hospitals and ambulances and everything. And so if they are trying to find a way to rectify that problem, I fully support it. And they're also talking about prioritising British doctors instead of overseas doctors. I mean, that's obviously, it's important as well that sort of people in this country, trained by this country, can get jobs here, because one of the real problems that we see, and we talk about this every now and again on this programme, is people go abroad. Yeah. They get trained up here at public money, public expense, and then they go abroad where they can get a lot more money.
They should be
if
made
they can
to pay
stay
back
here,
the money that's been spent on their training.
They should stay here.
They should maybe be made to pay it back if they leave.
Well, on that note of agreement...
Yeah, that's unusual.
It is. We're speechless. Shall we go to Tatiana Sanchez?
Thank you, Miriam. The top stories: pharmacists are said to be running low on flu jabs in certain places as the super flu outbreak continues to sweep across Britain. Chemists warned people who want to be vaccinated should expect to travel or try several pharmacies amid a shortage of appointments in some areas. Next week's strike by resident doctors in England may be averted after ministers offered the BMA a fresh deal. The doctors' union has agreed to put the offer to members over the coming days. If they support it, the 5-day walkout starting on the 17th of December could be called off. Venezuela has accused the US of piracy after an oil tanker was seized off the country's coast. Donald Trump announced the operation had taken place during a meeting of business leaders at the White House, telling reporters, "We've just seized a tanker, the largest one ever seized." And homelessness charities have warned that ministers are falling short of what is desperately needed to end Britain's homelessness crisis. It comes as the government published its new plan to tackle rough sleeping in Britain, which pledges £3.5 billion of funding to crack down on the issue. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
£75? £75?
This is...
That was Andrew's reaction when he found out that the vegan jumper, which he'd been so wanting for Christmas, was actually £75.
£75? Do you think that's reasonable? Exactly the same reaction.
What kind of jumper
And it was
was
hideous.
Well, it's a Christmas jumper.
If it was absolutely gorgeous and you were going to wear it every single Christmas for the rest of
It had a dead bleeding turkey on it.
Upside down,
OK, maybe not then.
Blood pouring out of his neck.
Yeah, £75.
More Halloween.
Vegan wool, apparently.
Oh, dear. Oh, my goodness, really?
Yeah, so that's why I reacted like that, as you can see.
Do you know what? Nice colours. And isn't it funny how if you don't actually look at properly...
That's what I said. From a distance, it looks like a festive jumper.
I couldn't tell it was a dead turkey.
Do you have any serious news coming up?
Oh, yes, we do. No. We're not going to be talking about jumpers at all, I don't think, are we? We're going to be
If you want to. It's the Christmas jumper day at work today, so maybe someone will pop in later.
Good point.
Why aren't you participating, Charlie?
I was earlier, and I got told off, so I'm in my suit now.
Quite right.
Yeah.
We're very concerned I'm turning a bit casual this morning.
We are going to talk about, is it time to scrap the Lords? That's one of our big stories.
That's the top line.
That's the top line we're going to be talking about.
Can you believe that Rachel Reeves, Chief of Staff, has gone in the Lords?
Well, I can believe
it. As a reward for the total shambles that was the last budget.
Do you know what? It's so funny, isn't it? Because they keep on... They have talked about... I think I was about sort of, minus 20 when they first started talking about getting rid of the House of Lords. They're still talking about it.
Starmer said in 2022 it was definitely going.
I know, but the thing is that in the end, I think it's always quite nice to have a checks and balances. What do you think?
Well, only if they are checks and balances, and not just they're stuffing a house to pass through their unpopular
We're back on the
legislation.
turkeys again.
Yeah, OK. We'll also
Stuffing the House of Lords.
We've also got plenty of broader discussion going on about net zero, the costs it could bring to the country, 350 billion squid, they're saying. So we're going to be discussing and debating that. And also a bit of a growing row in Scotland about the Justice Secretary, Angela Constance, facing calls to resign. We'll be speaking to the leader of the Scottish Conservatives about that because she's accused of misleading Parliament, and we've got the letter that they say proves she did. That'll be an interesting discussion.
Misleading pilot used to be a resigning matter on the spot.
Used to be.
Not anymore.
Oh, well, so many,
those were the days.
We're
showing
yes,
our
you and
age.
I was
We're
going to
showing
say
our
when
age.
Queen Victoria was on the throne.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the glory days.
Well, all that reminiscence is coming up at midday. But up next, we'll reveal just how many parents have been sent to court after the Welsh smacking ban came into force in 2022. It's Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a fine day for many of us today, but not for all. We do have increasing cloud and rain moving in from the west through the course of the day. It's a slow-moving weather front which is approaching, attached to this area of low pressure, far enough away to avoid any, well, significant impacts from it, but it will turn damp across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland during the afternoon, and those outbreaks of rain persisting throughout much of the day. Further east, we still have some sunshine through parts of East Wales, the Midlands, North East England, but the cloud is increasing out there, particularly across the south and the west. The breeze is freshening, but that's coming from the south, so it's another mild day, 12 or 13 in the south, 9 to 12 further north. We end the afternoon with those outbreaks of rain across western Scotland, much of it light and patchy, but some moderate or heavy bursts into western coastal areas and western hills. Eastern Scotland, still some cloud breaks, especially for Edinburgh and the Lothians. Northern Ireland just clearing that rain during the evening rush hour. The rain edging into parts of West Wales and Cornwall, albeit as a relatively showery feature, so on and off bursts through the evening, then spreading into western fringes of England, much of Wales, clearing western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the night progresses, and under clear skies here with lighter winds, temperatures will fall away. There'll be a few mist patches across Northern Ireland first thing, and a touch of frost in one or two spots. But plenty of bright weather away from any mist across western Scotland and Northern Ireland, and increasingly the cloud and rain clearing Wales and the southwest during Friday morning. But it does linger through the Midlands into central southern England, and then eventually it only slowly peels away from East Anglia and the southeast. 12 Celsius in the southeast, a little bit fresher further west, 7 to 10.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 18 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Case.
Well, the Prime Minister, you'll be thrilled to know, has just been speaking, and we're so thrilled for you because we can share with you what he had to say.
Wants, what Ukraine wants, what Europeans want, is the same thing, which is a just and lasting peace in Ukraine after the nearly 4-year aggression from Putin and Russia. So we're working towards that aim. Obviously, there are a number of issues still to be resolved, but I'm very clear in my mind that we support Ukraine in this fight, not of their making. They've paid a very heavy price. If there is to be a ceasefire, and I hope there is, and Ukrainians want that above all else, it must be just and it must be lasting. We've had ceasefires in the past, which Putin has then breached because they weren't robust enough, and we're determined to make sure that any peace is a lasting peace.
Back here, statistics this morning show record numbers of patients.
Well, that was the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
I'm sorry, what was he wearing? A black shirt?
Not a
Or was it a
Christmas jumper.
navy blue shirt? No tie?
Well, he was talking about wanting lasting peace in Ukraine, but the only thing that would guarantee lasting peace in Ukraine peace in Ukraine is if NATO, Western European countries were willing to back that up with armed force, and we're not.
And I do not think, I've thought this for a very long time now, and we had that former Tory MP, your colleague from the Isle of Wight, Bob Seeley. I don't think Putin's got any interest in peace. He wants to keep on. He wants to conquer all of Ukraine because he wants to recreate the old Soviet Union. Not interested.
Well, moving on now, the number of parents taken to court under the Welsh smacking ban has finally been revealed, with fewer than 5 cases brought in the 3 years since the law came in.
The ban removed the defence of reasonable punishment, and it's been under review, but campaigners say delays have forced them to compile their own report.
Well, the Welsh Government says its official review will be published next week, but we're now joined by the sociologist Dr Ashley Frawley. Ashley, good morning. Thank you so much for joining the programme. Now, campaigners at the time feared that this smacking ban would clog up the courts with unnecessary cases. What's actually happened? What's been the result?
We have to be a bit careful about the claims on the part of the Welsh Government about the actual numbers because, and this is what this recent report reveals, that has had to be compiled by campaigners because they're not actually keeping records. After Freedom of Information requests, it's been found that a lot of councils are not following it. And according to the numbers that are kept, it's actually significantly more parents that are entering the criminal justice pipeline, over 100 every year. And there's been a 112% increase in intrusive assessments by social services triggered solely by smacking. So these are trivial incidents between parents and children. Parents who are using what used to be considered reasonable punishment, that is, smacking for the purposes of discipline, no more than transient reddening of the skin, something that has happened in millions of households, since time immemorial, is now triggering these intrusive assessments, surveillance, appearing on people's enhanced DBS checks, affecting employment, volunteering. So it's very, very serious, and it's trying to be downplayed because the truth is that the promise made by the Welsh Government that this would not criminalise parents has not been kept.
Now, we are looking at a potential ban like this coming into England as well. There are some amendments to a bill going through Parliament at the moment. But we also know, we hear in the news today, that there's been a shocking rise of actual child abuse, child sexual abuse, a lot of it online. How on earth are the authorities supposed to police that kind of abuse when their time is being taken up trying to decide whether or not a parent's smacking a toddler on the bum was reasonable or not?
Well, the thing is that they're not actually even deciding whether or not it was reasonable because that's what the law previously did. And most parents knew the difference. Most social workers knew the difference. They're actually just saying that's all assault. That's all assault. So that's not even, so there, it's the investigations now, it triggers immediately an investigation, either social services or criminal. So the finding serious abuse is like finding a needle in a haystack. And what the Welsh Government has done is they've just added thousands more needles, and the numbers of assessments are just going up and up and up and up, which makes it so much more difficult for already stretched caseworkers to figure out who is actually at risk here. And that is what we warned about. And the truth is that these bans are ideological. They're about a form of parenting, a parenting style that those in power don't like. They're very suspicious of parental authority. And it's not evidence-based. I mean, if you look at the strongest evidence, authoritative parenting, which usually uses smacking as a backup method, is well recognized as the most effective form of parenting. But because it makes people very squeamish, particularly those in power who like this trendy kind of positive parenting, they've moved to be extremely heavy-handed in putting forward a ban that was, they've explicitly said, meant to send a message. They have no courage of their convictions. They don't want to send a message by trying to convince people maybe positive parenting is the best way to raise children. No, instead they trigger these heavy-handed, highly surveillance-driven forms of punishment. And even if you're not criminally charged, the process itself is the punishment. And we've seen this in a huge range of sort of cultural crusades where they just drag people through these awful processes that really destroy families, work prospects, and so on, just to send a message.
Ashley Frawley, thank you so much for coming on the programme this morning. And Andrew, I do think the proposals in the House of Lords are being watered down currently, so we may not come into force.
But it's bringing the state into the home in a completely unacceptable way. Leave it to mum and dad.
Exactly, it's already illegal to hit a child in a way that hurts them, stick to the law.
Yeah.
Well, plenty more to come, but first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Are you heading away this weekend? Well, it's turning unsettled through the Canary Islands, but there is plenty of sunshine to come for the Mediterranean. But a spell of wet weather through Friday will push through Tenerife as well as Madeira and through Lisbon as well as towards Barcelona. Plenty of cloud and outbreaks of showers for Nice. But as we look further east, high pressure dominates and that will bring plenty of sunny and dry weather to parts of Greece in particular. So temperatures here will start to climb towards the high teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. This morning we've been asking, should the House of Lords be abolished? The results are in.
Wow, now that's bigger than I thought.
85% say yes, 15% no.
I think it's because it's full of cronies. That's part of the problem.
I mean,
on all sides, I'm not being just Labour, I mean Tories as well. Yeah. You know what happens. They want to get a safe seat for a young Turk, so they put the MP who's been in the seat for years in the House of Lords, whether they've got anything
but then
to
you've
add.
also get some absolutely superb experts in their field, like Amanda Spielman, for example, Claire Fox. There are some absolutely brilliant peers, and I have to say, from my experience as an MP, if the Lords did not scrutinise legislation, we would be in so much trouble. So much law gets through from Commons with appalling errors, terrible unforeseen consequences. If it wasn't for the House of Lords, honestly, this country would be in an absolute disaster.
I wonder if,
we do need them.
If that question had been rephrased and said, would you prefer an elected House of Lords?
Yeah. But the idea that no one is checking up on the Commons homework, I just find absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, we've also got some comments that you've been sending through to gbnews.com/your say. Patricia says, I'm saying no. We should have kept the hereditary independent Lords because every so-called modernisation seems to be botched. I'm with you, Patricia. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I can't agree with that.
Another person says the House of Lords is a huge example of cronyism by all parties over the years.
There are some great hereditary peers who will be
James
bowing
Bethel,
out. Yeah, he's been on this programme many times. And they don't get paid. Well, they get an allowance, don't they?
Honestly, the old ways are the best ways, Andrew.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's all from Britain.
And by the way, John Redwood, who's a Tory MP, he's going to House.
Yes, that'd be great.
He will be a very good addition.
I think he should be the Chancellor. He'd have to defect to Labour, but nevertheless, I think it's his national duty if you're listening, John.
That's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Charlie and Penny.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A dry day with sunny spells for many eastern areas. However, further west, rain will move in, and across the north, still another fairly breezy day, though not as windy as it was earlier on this week. So some cloud around across many eastern and northern areas, but there will be some sunny spells, particularly across eastern areas of England throughout this morning and into the afternoon. But further west, cloud will thicken after a fairly bright start. It's quite a brisk breeze as well, starting to pick up, and rain will push into parts of northwest Scotland, far west of Wales, southwestern England, as well as Northern Ireland. It is a mild day, though, out there after a pretty mild start this morning as well. Now, that rain will gradually move eastwards throughout this evening, but it will linger for parts of Scotland through much of this evening. And once it does clear through, we will start to see much clearer skies move in through the second part of the night. And with that, temperatures will start to fall away. So we're down into mid-single figures across parts of western Northern Ireland to start this evening. Now, the rain may turn heavy across parts of Wales, southwest England, particularly over any high ground, but it will be a fairly short-lived spell of wet weather that we're expecting through this evening. It will push eastwards throughout the night, becoming a slightly weaker feature. So lots of cloud ahead of that, fairly dry across many southeastern areas, spell of wet weather for many central areas, and then clearer skies developing from the north and west, spreading into parts of West Wales as well as southwestern England. And here we could see a touch of frost by Friday morning. So a dry and sunny start to the day for much of Northern Ireland, Scotland, western areas of England and Wales, but a thick blanket of cloud and some wet weather, though, persisting across the east throughout Friday morning. It may take a little while to clear, but the rain's not going to be particularly heavy. And once it does clear, that sunshine will become much more widespread, bringing many of us a fine end to the week. But it will feel a little bit fresher out there on Friday afternoon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash,